Good afternoon. I'm speaking from the Shiv Nadar University in Dadri in Greater Noida, where, as I said, we're going to be looking at the MFA Students Visual Arts Show for this year, for 2024. And I'm going to start with getting a couple of students in. So this is Abhay and Lippy. Okay, tell me more about the course, tell me more about what we're doing here today.
So the show is for the graduating batch of the 2022-2024 MFA program at the Department of Art, Media and Performance at the Shiv Nadar University. And this is the final sort of thesis show. So we've had our juries 3 days ago and now we have the opening today. So we're just going to go through and look at it. So
Perfect. And how many students are there in the thing?
We are 11 of us, so all of our works are up there. We can go one by one.
And fantastic. So you guys have been preparing for this for 2 years now, I
yeah,
presume.
so we've been working and all of our works here have been sort of, it's a culmination of what we've been sort of working with in the past 2 years of the MFA through different courses, different programs, different sort of project loan spaces, different programs within the MFA as well, which is part of the structure. And so that's what everyone's work is on display here, which is the final culmination.
Okay.
The central concept has been to sort of work with the idea of death, and he's been sort of exploring death and what it means in different spaces, different cultures, and how does this object sort of this character that you walk through and walk within an immersive space, because there's water running through, there is sensors here, and with your sort of touch and heat sensors, what does that do, and how these characters sort of move around.
Okay, so you said that I have to
so
hold down the water.
Yeah.
Lippy, can you please work this for me, please? We don't have the artist here today, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay.
There's another this thing right around you.
Okay.
Which the higher it is playing the game is slightly done differently. So that's the game and that's the character.
Okay. So what's the character about?
So this character that traverses through this landscape, and this landscape is talking about ideas of death and sort of contemplating and sort of different reaches different checkpoints, different sort of objects are there which one can interact with, and sort of it goes according to how you sort of interact with these objects and spaces and moments that you come up with during the game. So.
And the nicest part was the very...
So it is working, I think Ajay sir is sort of doing that.
So it's very tactile because you are playing with the water, you're moving the...
Yeah.
So literally you're feeling the water here and you're seeing it move there. So that tactileness was what really made this so much fun and something I haven't tried before. And how do you put together something like this? Which department does this work in? Art, performance, what is this?
So a lot of our works here are sort of in these multiple spaces of be it game or be it art and be it other works, as well as with last year we had someone who came biotechnology and other things as well. So it's sort of these questions of where is the art happening, what is it even art, and all of those things. So it's been interesting to be in this space where there are different departments from engineering, computer sciences, whatever, and so on and so forth, that we've been able to work with these to make our sort of art happen. So it's been pretty an interesting process through the past 2 years.
Okay, we move to the next. Arpana, come. We need you to introduce your works. This is Arpana? Aparna, sorry. Okay.
So I'm from Kerala. Before SNU, I was doing a course related to traditional music art of Kerala. So after coming here, I have tried to explore those images from a present perspective. I tried to build a language, different visual language from that. And through that language, I'm trying to talk about my forms.
Okay. So you, as you said, come in front of the work. So you have to explain it to me, na Papa? Come here.
Yeah. So this is a watercolor painting.
Okay.
So in this painting I have tried to approach the traditional images in an abstract way. I have tried to decode those images and encode them into a different mode. Try to deconstruct the narratives and
Why?
the meanings.
When you say deconstruct the narratives, why did you have to deconstruct the narratives? What are you getting out of it? Why did you feel the need to deconstruct the narratives?
I think I felt a rigidity in that language, and I wanted to explore more freedom in using the same simple, same method, same colors, but to explore more freedom.
And how old are these images that you've picked up?
References.
Yes.
These are like made before 2000 years.
And they're still there in the
Yeah,
temples?
few of them are there.
And why did you feel the need to come to Delhi to explore it further?
I think SNU is offering a very wide range of possibilities in terms of mediums, and I think it's a great opportunity to be here and explore this.
Okay, you were telling me about these.
Yeah.
So this is, these you said were, tell me more?
Yeah, these are related to some landscapes and the fragmented memories of landscape that stay with us even after leaving those places. And I have tried to use few elements from the traditional art to communicate about that. And here I am considering landscape as a skin of earth. And in the tradition, these dotting techniques is using to detail the skin of body, and I'm using the same technique here to talk about this.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So, what are the materials you've used in these?
These are terracotta bricks, and the layers of color is watercolor. Yeah.
Okay. Can we go into
Yeah.
your... Okay, yes, of course. So what are these about?
There are three sculptures, and these are from few philosophical inquiries about life. And I have tried to transform or translate those concepts into object. Means the concept that doesn't have a form or tangibility, I have tried to convert them to a tangible objects. And through connecting these inquiries, I tried to make a video. And that's it.
Come.
So in this video, I have tried to connect few philosophical questions that I felt relevant in this present perspective to look at the tradition, and it's more like a self-inquiry. And I have used some elements from the tradition, like the element of drama and poeticsness. And, yeah.
And it's literally from the macro to the micro, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at earth, you're looking at sky, and then you're coming down to yourself.
Self and the human beings, other creatures, and then it's getting more minute into the self and the curiosities, confusions, questions.
Thank you so much. Sure.
This one.
Let me introduce, which is another work?
Yeah, then there's another.
Okay.
So this series of work is a second part of the previous one, the bricks one, and these are also exploring the landscape. The same technique I've used here, but in a different way.
What do you mean by different way?
Here I have explored other mediums as well. These are watercolor on paper, and I'm trying to build a like different narrative through this.
What do you mean by different narrative?
I'm trying to connect this landscape and trying to remember few places I was interacting with, and I'm like just connecting few dots and talking through them.
Thank you so much, Aparna.
Thank you.
So next is Mansha's work. It starts from here. That's Mansha.
Hi, Mansha. Okay, tell me more.
Okay. So this work is called as. Sorry, I like the word. So this work is called as Wants and Actions, and my work revolves around image building and self-image in the current scenario in the society, where we get so influenced by social media and the societal norms, and how we end up building these belief systems and the beauty norms and disciplining ourselves and sort of punishing ourselves in certain ways and altering ourselves to match up to these societal expectations. So this particular work is inspired from my habit of running, and it's about the restless running of the mind and the body. And since I'm from Delhi, I was jostling between home and here, and so this work is inspired from that. These are the rest of my works.
Should we start? Which wall should we start with? Okay.
Start with this one. This is called as the deconstructed self, and it's like it's an explosion of oneself and of when you reach a certain point and you just explode, and you kind of you start bursting out. So it's a terracotta work which is being made out of my own bust that I made from clay, and it was a very long, tedious process, but worth the effort. This particular work is called as Ambivalent Bodies, which is it shows the chaos that we all go through. Each body that goes through all the chaos in life and the transformations, and certain transformations that are by choice and certain by expectations. So it's like another restless burst. These are like those chaotic bodies hanging in midair.
They also look like cocoons in a way.
Yes, thank you. They are. They are like cocoons. They can be. They are inspired from a lot of things from my life. My works, everyone's works are inspired from their life. This reminds me of food as well. So, and I'm a big foodie and I bake and I cook. So this was like dough, molding and transforming. And I've used an industrial material. So the work is inspired from the materiality or the material itself, because it changes over time, and so do we.
Thank you so much.
So this is Creepy Space,
So-
and
These works as well.
Go on.
so her work is about spaces and people, and I think more about how people around her tend to occupy the spaces that she creates. So here there is a row of painted studios, and it is of people around her or studios around her, and this is the cricket field on top that we can see through our studios, through the window. Those are paintings of her table. These are paintings of the sink that all of us use to wash utensils, paintbrushes, everything, and this is the common fridge that we have in the studios. So I think she's attempted to document these things on an everyday basis and to see how these things that we use change over time. And she's also worked on portraits, and these are all our batchmen, so there are 11 here.
Who is who?
That is Mansha, that's Abhay, that is me,
That's Shimoy. That's Ramansh. That's Aparna, Malvika, Pratigya, and Samudra.
And these are again about, this seems a rather intimate space.
This is her friend and she was sleeping on the couch. So I think this is just her trying to like depict that in a way, like looking out for her friend.
And this is stunning. And now we get to your space.
So this is my space.
Can I start with your poem?
Yes. That's okay. I can read it out if you want.
Yes, please.
So it's called The Presence of Absence. Has the departure changed it? Does it still feel empty? It manages to exist without, the same but different. How does it make sense of what has happened? Is it lost, ineffectual or hollow? Having given its form, does its absence fill it with sorrow? Has its meaning changed or does it still feel the same? Is it still enough given it shares the same name? Can it compensate its loss and absence, its form and presence, its place and role? Is the impact small or does it make no difference at all? Is it big enough to make it realize or too small to recall?
And your works are, one side is photographs and one side is these built
Smaller structures that I have made from all this material that I've been collecting over the past few months. So all of this that I have collected is these pieces, I don't know their source. So the work is an attempt to bring together these pieces whose source and provenance is unknown, and it becomes an attempt to create a whole again. So it is an attempted whole of these pieces that have been displaced or misplaced from where they're supposed to be. So that is what is happening with the structures. And with the photographs, it is about the haze that gets created with time and the inaccuracy of memory in a way and what that can do to our ability to remember. So my work then largely revolves around things that act as traces or remembrances of either an imagined past or an imagined future, with claiming and reclaiming of material and objects playing an important role in what I do.
And you said that these pieces are all picked up from around
They're
here?
all from campus. So it is what I have encountered on an everyday. So I would collect 2 one day and then 3 the next day, and then maybe I would see another pile lying around, so I would collect those. So it's been happening over some time.
And what does this make you feel? Why? I mean, you're working with this to this extent.
Yeah.
There must be some emotional connect to this.
There is. So for me, I think the main thing was that their source was unknown, and the main thing that intrigued me was this inability to go back to its past form. So this in itself, as the smaller pieces of the structure, they exist as a thing in itself. But the meaning of these smaller pieces has changed because now it is not a part of what it was. So despite it meaning something right now, it has changed a lot. So these mean a lot metaphorically and symbolically, not so much in terms of use, but in terms of the memory and meaning they can carry. And I think that's why it's been interesting for me. Apart from, of course, the process of making these, which I think is also, it's spontaneous and it's also, and none of these are stuck together with adhesive. So even though none of these belong together or are not coming from the same source, some of them really fit together really well. So I think that has also been interesting to see.
Like, which ones do you feel fit together well? Because each one of them can be built and rebuilt constantly.
Constantly. So some, I think, balance on each other really well. Like, I think this one.
And they must have all been built by you in this space, right?
In this space. So I got all the material here, and then all of this was made here.
And do you have a favorite piece?
I think my favorite one is this here. This one, which is two pieces coming together.
Beautiful. This is really lovely. Too. And there are all these, I can remember a game we played as a child called Pittu, which
Yeah.
also fits into this kind of building. There's so many thoughts that go through my head when I'm looking at these. There's two parts, of course. Okay, who's next?
We move to Malvika.
Is Malvika here?
I think she just stepped out for a bit, but can tell you about the practice a bit.
So should we then start with...
Yeah, sure.
And by that time maybe Malvika will be back.
Ritaban's been exploring different sort of ways of how violence occurs and how violence propagates and perpetuates as well. And so these are all his explorations of looking at violence. He writes this, I'm just going to read out, that his attempt is to bring together divergent yet entangled inquiries to unravel the intricate tapestry of complicity, culpability, and common responsibility that undergirds the perpetuation of violence, challenging us to confront our own roles, however subtle or unintentional. In sustaining the very systems that inflict harm and suffering, it contests context to generate assemblies of time outside prescribed linearities and a perceived belonging within them. It calls out for other sensoria to participate equitably in the seeding. It unfolds bereavement, desire, despair, and hope. So different works as well. There is this work that he's made, and these are the chini ka khilona, the sugar things, but these are the toys themselves are weapons of violence. So he's talking about how the culpability and how easy it is, and how in our daily life, especially today, increasingly so, how these things are so casual and they are like toys, and how these can be sold as an everyday perpetuation of violence, and that's what the attempt has been over here at least.
Why the army officer?
This is I think he's been working with with violence for a long time and different perpetuations of it and what it means. Obviously, it becomes a very sort of iconic image of violence in terms of the red, the fire, a person, a security guard, an officer, whatever else, and those ideas of what one thinks of as an idea of authority, and becomes those icons of it, sort of put together with another sort of violence where he talks about he's been working with the Sundarbans for a long time, and this image has been this sort of how the river comes in, and these are houses and places where people sort of live at and stay, and how their villages every year at the same time are sort of taken over, and different kinds of violence that sort of talks about as well.
There was something about his brother which was written on this.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. So it talks about the death of his brother that interpreted a profound failure of socio-cosmos. Amidst the immense reticular cultural arbitrariness of spectacular, subtle compulsions forging realities, this does not unfold in solitude. It was born of the fatal creativity of collective violence infiltrating all life and regime. It obscured brutality and sustained and diffused, performed and practiced through imperceptible yet integral procedures of complicity and inescapability.
Thank you. And of course, the pills as well.
Malvika Space. She has her practice has been engaging with ideas concerning home, memory, identity, reflecting on undertones of kinship and everyday politics. The works engage with social fabric of middle class homes, including reflections on hierarchies of gender. The attempt here has been to sort of talk about fragmented interiors of home, elaborating on the idea of home as a dweller of our emotions. The melting bodies of objects slip through liminal spaces of fertile thoughts, reflecting upon the ambiguous feelings of comfort and discomfort. Here the doors, windows, beds, and pillows appear as storytellers and invite us to rest with them for a moment and listen to their tales. She also has these notes that she's placed here, so we can all sit here and sort of look through these notes that she has mentioned.
And she said, this is the furniture talking.
Yeah. So all these elements, and as they appear as windows to being spaces within these houses and what they are sort of talking about.
So how many of you have, I noticed Lippy has, Malvika has, there's a poetry which goes along with the artworks.
Yeah. So, I mean, text and image has been a conscious sort of attempt for people as well. I mean, we were talking about earlier, how sort of art isn't necessarily specifically limited to art, like talking about different departments as well, talking about different spaces of philosophy, of art, of history, of emotions, of everything else, and how sort of all of those things seep into what art making is for everyone else. And the possibility at Shiv Nadar has been that, to sort of giving us that freedom to explore these spaces, to talk about poetics, to talk about everything, and how in conjunction that perhaps art can be much more than just, you know, understandable or accepted norms of just a painting on the wall or sculptures or, you know, or installations as well. So it's attempt to also push beyond these boundaries of what we sort of term art to be. So I think the explorations have brought in different sort of fields as well into everyone's art spaces.
Lippy, you going to take me through these ones?
Yeah, sure.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Or shall we do Shimoyas? No, Shimoyas has to be a woman who has to lead me through this.
So Shimoy's work it talks about, I think, intimacy, and also a lot of her imagery shows women bodies and somewhere breaking the ideal of the body. And this video again talks of intimacy and somewhere the invasion of an intimate and private space. So again talking of surveillance even when it comes to the ideal and gender.
This one step out. I found this really interesting. So there are these
Confessions here. So there is a confession page. It's called Secrets of SNU, and she's taken a few posts from that and a few lines from that and put that in her video, and that's really interesting. And this is a piece that she had done in Project Room 1, where she was working under this structure, and this painting that she had made, which she converted into a table later, was then continued to exist in that space even after the project room ended and the duration of the project room ended. And over time, a lot of things happened to the table, which has now again become a canvas. So I think that's really interesting.
What do you mean by a lot of things happened to the table?
Just water happened, stains happened, and
I wish she'd been here. Okay, who's
this
next?
is Pratigya. So Pratigya primarily works with the landscape.
It's actually stunning.
Yeah, it is.
And this, you said, was an installation where water goes through the mud and
We can maybe try to switch it on. She's been talking about ideas of land and body and how they're embodied together, and the collapse of both land and body, and as it is a lot of it's an autobiographical work, as well as talking about society and politics and what is happening today in general. And so that the attempt for her has been to talk of these spaces where it is about collapse of her personal, as well as what she sort of embodies with being in different spaces.
And is there a particular water body that you're looking at? Is it
So lots of spaces have been, I mean, it's more talking of nature and landscape in general, but her work has been sort of looking at Dadri for a long time as well, where we are located, and this university built on wetlands as well. So the politics of that, what that means, and especially talking of these things within this space as well, and how we sort of talk about it, and but within our everyday lives is a different sort of challenge with it. So.
And what do these gloves mean, the black and white gloves?
So I think it's just our complicity in sort of these elements of how we are all part of what is happening today, to the spaces, to the climate, to everything else, and autobiographical as well of different sort of people who are part of that, and I think that's it's sort of seen in this one.
Thank you.
So eventually, I mean, if the water continues to drip, it will the mud will sort of seep through the clay. So it talks about how the water level and everything else also goes, and what land is will eventually also sort of disintegrate and go through the mesh.
Thank you. Shabi, there? There's this room.
Yeah, so this is also Pratigya's room. There was an ice sculpture here which has melted now, which is also talking about an embodied space and constant trees. This is also a Zain which she has made.
And again, more and more poetry is coming out.
The text and image is something that I think definitely being explored throughout. I mean, we have courses as well on Graphos where I think people are explored a little more directly, where we're talking about the text and image and what that does for it. What does text do with an image, text do without an image, and text and image with text as well. So I think the explorations have sort of been furthered in those courses as well.
Thank you. Are we coming to yours next?
This is my space. The attempt has been to bring together sort of these three conceptual inquiries that I have been engaged with, which is the residue, the self, me, and me as an artist, and the landscape. So the attempt here has been to sort of bring these things together with the larger overarching theme of the thesis, where I was sort of talking about what happens when the practice does not have a linear sort of trajectory of inquiry, work, process and work. What happens when process
Yeah.
What that means is an art object as well. Talking of also of other objects that have been in the studio in my act of collecting, and the residues within the studio space as well.
And there's every surface is covered.
Yeah. So the attempt has been to speak of those things and bring that together. Talk of ambiguity, absurdity, going beyond, the poetic.
So these
and
are oil.
strange.
These are oil stains. Outside was blood stains.
Yes.
Um,
And inside there are stains which are mine, which we can go in the other.
Sorry, what stain is this?
These are also oil stains. It's on a material that I was sort of delving with. I'd got these sort of oil filters in my studio for about 2 years, and they've been leaking ever since. So I've been sort of manipulating and working with them for the past year and a half now. So,
I love this one. Yes.
So I mean, these are all elements that sort of bring together. These are all my explorations with landscape and other spaces as well. This work was a takeoff point on the self and inheritances that I have as me as an artist and me as me, and what that means. And through these we have a 14-day project room period where we're supposed to make a site-specific work and contemplate with it. And in those 14 days, the attempt was to create a space of ritual where I would light a candle every day, where I would spend time every day sort of thinking and contemplating over this inheritance that I have and what I can do with it, and trying to consume it as well. And in the end, what came through was my lack of being able to provide anything to do justice to this massive inheritance that I have from personal level as well as from a professional space of being an artist.
You keep saying massive inheritance. What's your inheritance?
As an artist as well, as an artist, there is so much that has happened before us, that has come before us, to do justice to that, to be being part of that field, and what I have in response to that, what I have to offer for that. And so there have been ideas of literature as well, which have been part of my growing up, and I should have read these books, I should have done this by now, and there are disappointments with myself that I have as well. So talking of all of those elements together, and by the end of it, what I sort of had was these candles where the wick is made of my own hair, and what I have for you to consume is just myself in a very direct sense, because that is all very little that I have to offer to you, because I cannot do justice to what has been before me. So that was another work.
So are you also talking about what you're leaving behind, what the stains you are leaving behind through this?
In that sense as well. So the residue was the idea of, thinking a conceptual residue, the physicality of it, the materiality of it, and what the left behind means, and what is left behind after something is left behind. So this as well, if you think about it right now, is something that is an art object that was left behind from something that had been done previously. And what does it mean now? And if one wants, one can sort of activate the art object again by lighting another candle. So in terms of, again, what I was talking about process earlier, and the end work of art is the finished work of art, where does it stand and where does it hold? Because, well, it's continuously changing and evolving, and eventually also, if you activate it again, it moves away. And being a residue of what has happened previously as part of another space, as part of the creating of a space in the past.
I have to say, people in their 20s have more angst and more worry about what they're leaving behind than slightly older people who feel we're still so young and we have so much time in front of us.
So these were explorations of the landscape, and the attempt was to sort of looking at my frustrations with it by the end of it. By the end of it, the frustration that sort of stemming from my explorations of why I seek the landscape, why it seeks me, and my inability to find answers. So the attempt was to sort of go through this process of going to the landscape, reading poetry to the landscape, trying to make land art and feeling it in hope for a response that perhaps the landscape can answer for me. So these videos and these works are of a performance and traversing through the landscape near the university with me as well. And the idea was the fact that perhaps now, as a sort of last attempt, that now the landscape will answer to me. And that's what the attempt has been. The video sort of goes on, it's called Looking for the Lost Note.
So you're playing Shadi Ke Gaane to the landscape.
Shadi Ke Gaane, there's Vidai, there are also pop songs, there are other songs as well.
And what did you expect the landscape to say back to you?
Just something, like the fact that I have been trying to look for something for so long, and some answer, because I am unable to find these answers myself. So the work was about this frustration, was about this work, about this angst that I don't know. There is something that is calling out to me, there is a need to be in it, there is a need to hold it, there is a need to possess it. But what is it? Why is there a need? Why is this relationship what it is? And that the need was to sort of try and understand and attempt to understand the relationship. So that's where that sort of work came through. And so the idea was, as I was saying, is the title of the work is Looking for the Lost Note, where the bandwalas are looking for a lost note, as I am looking for something that perhaps is at a loss right now. So, and like it's like Sisyphus and his rock, and sort of that constant going around, because they're walking through the landscape looking for the place, and I'm walking through the landscape with them looking for what my answers are, and sort of a repetitive thing of never ending sort of find that is continuing. And so that's what the sort of thought was for that.
Thank you. Yeah. And now we come to the last one.
Yeah, Ramansh
is he here?
He was here, Ramansh.
Ramansh, can we find you?
Well, his work is about sort of hiding in religion. So the inspirations for him has been with painting, with painting. And the fact that you have to go through these spaces, like structures that he's created. You can walk around.
Okay.
Structures that he's created. And the paintings within them. Yeah, you can go in the light as well.
So what would you call this? Is this performance art? Is this...
It's all of us, for all of us, and that's the thing is, that it's not necessarily about categorizing or labeling, it's about what felt right, and in terms of intuition as well, what is so Ramansh as well as me, as well as other people have taken up different sort of possibilities of what art can be. There has been performative elements to his works. There are photographs that are performative. there are artbooks, there are structures that he's created, there are videos, there's text he's written. So again, to sort of limit it to certain categories would be sort of doing injustice to them.
Okay.
In terms of, is it specifically painting, is it specifically performance, is it something else? So I feel to not be too reductive would be ideal, to sort of take it as art is what he was perhaps attempting to do with what this space is doing for him.
So this space, so he said earlier that he is writing fiction.
Yeah, so he's been writing fiction which is on the text above.
Okay.
I think you can see.
Okay.
Those eyes like pinched. So there are things that are, there are stories that different, there are three, I think, characters that he talks about. One is a leaf collector, one is, I'm forgetting the two other names, sorry, just gone blank suddenly. But these are three characters that he's been working with as personas of art making as well. How different, one of them works with structures, one of them works with painting, one of them works with performance and performativity and photography as well. So I think these three spaces what he's trying to explore in these works as well. Sort of put all of these three characters together.
And there is no connection to Rabindranath Tagore and his works in this that we know of. And yet there is such a lot of similarity for me. Or maybe I'm just reading into it, as you all will. Okay, so this is really funky. Do you have anything to add to this, Anlipi?
I think these personas, there's Karan.
Yeah, there's Karan. Yeah. K for art for N. I'm just forgetting the last one.
Is there a floor as well?
Yeah, no, the leaf collector. Yeah. That's the only line. Now I'm forgetting right
So
now.
have you read the fiction or?
Some of it. So these texts are the fiction that are part of these videos as well. So what you are over there on the acrylic sheet as well. So it is, they become performative and they need you to spend time in these spaces. So you end up reading fiction and reading the images as well as the prints and everything else in sort of conjunction with the fiction that he's created as well as the.
So tell me something. You all have been working together on this for 2 years now. Do you all find yourself in each other's works, or do you all work in silos? How does this work?
I think all of us have really diverse practices, and I think as a batch, we're all doing very different kind of work. Even in terms of themes, I don't think there are any major overlaps.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are, all of us have been working together, so I think ideas have been sort of bounced off each other, we've been talking to each other, so what looks better where, how can I pursue this further. I think at the end of the day, spending so much, like 24 hours together in a day and spending 2 years together pretty much. The work, some of the other person does, seep into your work in terms of final decisions, in terms of possibilities, in terms of, okay, how do I pursue this further. So I think there are elements of all of us in this whole show, in each other's works as well. And some more directly than others, like Krippy, as you saw, was for her work is about the space and people and everything else. For Shimai is also about certain spaces. For Malvik it's about the space of home. So all of those things and what they mean and other things as well. I think all of us are largely very conscious of where we are, what we're doing, what our works are about. And I think it's a lot of, collectively is about a being of our own being and societal or otherwise. And I think in that sense, everything does come together.
Thank you. I think I saw Romansh come in and leave. Nope. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. It was nice.